Hey everyone, it's Steph. I'm just here at Zen and Pow Studio. Wanted to share some information today about the difference between active and passive poses. So if you've been coming to classes lately, you'll notice that certain poses we've been trying to make less passive and more active. And some of you might wonder, well, what does that mean and what does that look like on the mat? So basically a passive pose would be where you, let's say, use your hands to lift your leg or limb, whatever it is, and then you use your other arm to get yourself into a twist. And a lot of times it'll take you what we think is deeper into a pose, but that's not necessarily true. Sometimes it takes you deeper, but it takes away from the strength of the pose. So that would be more passive, is like a seated twist here. Maybe a pose where we're grabbing the foot, pressing into the hand. So there's a lot of ways to keep active poses instead of just going into them passively. So another one that we see a lot is, let's say, tree pose. We pick up our foot and then we put it as high up as we can inside that leg. So just different ways that we can start to explore our poses without kind of forcing ourselves into them and making them more active versus just passively, using our hands or using our legs or twisting or whatever it is to go deeper into the pose. And I guarantee you're gonna feel some extra muscle work going on when you start to look at creating more active poses in your practice. So one of the first ones is just finding, like I showed, that seated twist without grabbing the foot. So drawing the leg in, maybe stepping it over, and then just twisting from, let's say, our chest, our heart center, and letting that be your pose because that's your kind of natural range of motion for that twist versus pushing deeper into it, because sometimes we're not really meant to go deeper into whatever pose it is if we have to force ourselves to get there. Another good one is coming back to that tabletop, lifting that leg, and instead of grabbing the foot and just pushing it into the hand or just lifting here, not grabbing the foot and just reaching for it. If you try the difference between this one, reaching for the opposite hand and foot, I guarantee you will feel more work in the tricep, in the quad, in the core, stabilization, everything versus just grabbing the foot. So that's a great one to try to kind of feel the difference between the muscle working and kind of being more passive in the pose. And then also, like I showed that tree pose, instead of just grabbing the foot, lifting up that leg and opening the hip and seeing where you can land on the inside of that leg, staying tall without grabbing the foot. So tree pose is a great one to experience that active pose if you haven't yet. Or another great one, we have hand to big toe pose. Try it without connecting the hand to big toe, and I guarantee you will feel a lot more work down the inside of that leg and using the core. So there's so many ways that you can focus on being more active in your practice, in your poses, than passive, just by getting rid of this concept that, to grab the foot or grab the hand or the leg or whatever pose it is going to take it deeper. A lot of times that takes away from the actual muscle work, and then we end up hanging out in our joints and our ligaments and just kind of relying on our mobility, or for some of us, for me at least, that's hypermobility. So I can go way beyond natural range of motion, but it doesn't do any good for me because I'm not building strength there. So if I can focus on seeing how far I can go into a pose without, just grabbing the limb or twisting deeper, but actually trying to ignite those muscles and see where I can go that way, I guarantee you're going to see a difference in your practice and your strength, and it's just going to kind of transform your practice in a different way and really start to wake up some of those muscles that maybe you haven't been using because you've always just kind of gone for that deeper, sometimes looks more advanced pose, but not necessarily true. So I can encourage you to give some of those a try. Find a twist, find a tabletop, reaching for the opposite hand and foot, find a tree pose without using those hands or grabbing you know, the foot of the leg, whatever it is, and leave any questions or comments below as to what you experienced. But like I said, we've been practicing this a lot at the studio lately, and you will see a lot more to come.